$100,000 Midas Open, the first stop on the Professional Bowling Association's 1974 tour. Once again, here's how the final rounds are set in today's competition. In the first match, our 5th-ranked bowler, Earl Anthony, will meet the 4th-ranked bowler in the tournament thus far, Jim Steffens. Now, the winner of this match will attempt to bowl his way past Glenn Carlson in the 3rd place. Now, if he's successful, he'll meet the 2nd-place position man, which is Bob Stram. And finally, they'll go for the championship against our tournament leader, Dick Ritker. Remember, each competitor keeps advancing as long as, of course, he keeps on winning. Okay, we're all set to go. Here's Earl Anthony, and the left-handers aren't dominating this tournament, are they, Billy? Only one here.
No, I would say probably it might favor the right-hander here. The ball hooks back from most anywhere. You can play a little hook. You can play a lot of hook. It must be pretty soft so that you don't get tapped. And the scores were super.
That 7 sort of hung there for a bit. Now we switch over to another veteran here. This is Jim Steffens, who's 32 years old, from Joliet, Illinois. He's won 11 tournaments. Good start for both our bowlers.
Are you going to see the real mixing action? When you can get the ball off the thumb first, the finger second, it gives it that revolution action, which mixes those pins when it makes contact.
Billy, Jim looks in excellent condition. Seems he's taken off quite a bit of weight, hasn't he?
Yes, he's a pretty good physical culturist, and he rides the bicycle, and he does a lot of gym work, and can't find many in better shape than Jim.
So with that one, he goes out ahead by 10 over Earl Anthony, whom we're looking at right now. Earl's won 8 tournaments. Interesting thing about Earl is he didn't start really on the PBA tour until 70, and since that time he's won over $150,000.
Can't get him any closer than this, bud.
Not a miss in the house so far. I mentioned Earl also won 2 tournaments last year, including the PBA National Championship. Smooth. He has a good arm swing, doesn't he, Billy?
Yes, he does, and an excellent finishing position, which brings about his hitting his target the maximum number of times. You watch his knee has been at the point of release. See that? He goes right toward the target. That keeps you from pulling the shot offline, bud.
And now Earl goes ahead by 10 over Jim Steffens here. Jim's 5'11", a slim 180. 73 had no wins, but he won more than $23,000. You know, if this keeps up, ABC gives a perfect game live on the air at $10,000, and Lincoln Mercury also gives a Cougar. Do you think there's a possibility? I hate to say it. How about $20,000 and 2 Cougars?
Well, there's certainly the possibility here this week, as high as the scores have been. Last night, there were 279s from one end of the building to the other. Bob Stram had 3 in an 8-game session. Solid pocket hit.
And we'll be back with the balance of the first match at the Midas Open in just 1 minute. Jim Steffens now in the 7th, leading by 3. Boy, they were going along strongly, left the 10. Earl had 6 in a row, strikes. Jim started out with 5. How come it suddenly breaks like that, Billy?
Jim varied a little bit in speed. When you have a little variance in speed, the ball might slide on you, or it might hit a little too hard. there are a combination of factors in any portion of each, or one in outstanding noticeability certainly will cause you to get off your string strikes.
In other words, his timing was a little off. Would you say that or not? It's so much timing in this game.
Yes, it is a great deal of timing from the time you start into motion until the time you release the ball. When he left the 4-pin, I'm speaking of Jim Steffen, he was a whisker slow. He didn't have that same powerful leverage in the follow-through, and it broke a little more. There he's back to the good speed again, see? And yet not throwing it so hard.
You're talking about the variation speed. What would it be in miles per hour? Have you any idea? A fifth of a mile an hour? A tenth of a mile an hour, the variation you're talking about?
I'd say about 5 miles per hour.
That much?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't realize it. Earl Anthony now in the 8th. He's trailing by 2, leaves the 7th.
Normally, when you don't strike, you lose pins on count. However, since he had a split in his 7th frame, he won't lose any pin on count here. So he'll still be only 2 down. Going right to the wire, it looks, Bud.
And we're moving to the 9th now. Earl's a big fella, 6'1", 185 pounds, 35 years old. He has knee problems every once in a while when he's on the
Yes,
tour.
he's had some knee problems. I think ultimately he's going to have an operation and have some cartilages removed. Very good foundation.
Uh-oh. Now, what happened there?
Well, with the good foundation that he had, and you'll see here in slow motion the sharp break the ball takes. Look at that ball. Just keep going. Well, when it keeps going like that, it's a little slow and a lot of good lift. And that makes that ball take that sharp break in those last 6 to 10 feet. And it just broke right through the heart of the triangle of pins.
That might be the big break of the game, too. Oh, he gave it a good try. Now, that leaves it wide open for Jim Steffen here. That increases Jim's lead to 27 pins. He's a very fine golfer. By the way, as we watch him in slow motion here, he was on the ABC Superstar show last year, and he won the golf portion.
Jim's very deliberate player. Here you see, put a full arm swing into motion. Full follow through, and that's the closeout strike.
That did it to Earl Anthony. So Jim Steffen will go on to face Glenn Carlson coming up in our next match. Earl Anthony closing out now. He's trailing by 37 pins. And here's Jim Steffen closing out his game. Here's a 10. And Earl's just bowling out, too. And so Jim Steffen is our winner. And he'll be facing Glenn Carlson, who finished 3rd in our next match. Now, here's what happened on the last game. You can see Earl Anthony lost to Jim Steffen, 256 to 230, but Earl still picks up $4,000. Now, here in the next game, he faces Glenn Carlson. And if he can move up, it'll be Strampy and Ritker for the first prize of $14,000. Glenn Carlson against Jim Steffens here in our second game. Jim Steffens now starting the second game and starts out just the way he started the first game. Now here's our first look at tall, lean Glenn Carlson, who's 6 feet, 170 pounds, 37 years old, from Fresno, California. He's won, as I mentioned, no tournaments on the PBA Tour, but he doesn't play in many. Maybe 4 to 6 years, about all. Very smooth, deliberate delivery. Glenn is the Operation Recreation Manager for College Union at California State University at Fresno State. He takes care of the building and also teaches there. That's his average. Not bad. I was talking to Glenn. He likes to catch the fellas early in the year when they're not in maybe the best of shape, and he is.
Well, he's surely ready. Going to that line very slow, very smooth, very deliberate.
That's pretty slow, smooth, and deliberate, too. With the same results, we're starting out the way we did in the first game.
There were 200-300 games in the tournament, Bud, early in the tournament. In fact, the first game of the tournament, Jimmy McHugh from New York rolled one, and Bill Coleman from San Jose rolled the other, just a little bit later. The oddity was neither that rolled 300 cash.
300, but no money.
He's looking pretty strong.
Sure is. This is the first stop on the PBA Tour. And next week, it's a $70,000 Don Carter Classic from Arcadia, California. January 19th, $100,000 Showboat Invitational from Las Vegas. Everybody's getting all tensed up again, Billy, just like we started the first game.
No room to reset your hat band, Bud. They're really hitting the lanes here at Mel's Bowl. There's a beautiful gloss to the lanes. The bowlers have been able to play them in or out. Predominantly, it's been around the second arrow, which is the 10th board. A little slight break down and a sharp break in.
A great winner, and we'll return here to Mel's Bowl for more in just a moment. And here's Jim Steffens again, going for strike number 4 in the first game, which he won over Earl Anthony at 5 in a row. And we pause now for just 5 seconds to allow our local stations to identify themselves. This is Bud Palmer along with Billy Whaler. We're looking at Jim Steffens. This is a $100,000 Midas Open from Alameda, California. Jim defeated Earl Anthony in the first game, 256 to 230. Now he's trying for strike number 5 here in the second game against Glenn Carlson. And he has it.
It'll be one of the highest scoring tournaments we've ever had in the history of the PBA, Bud.
It is something. Glenn Carlson makes sometime appearances on the tours. I mentioned the PBA Tour, 4 to 6 a year, depending upon the year. He has 4 strikes in a row, trailing now by 10.
good, too.
And once again, I'd like to say, not putting the whammy on anybody, should anybody get a perfect 300 game on the air here, ABC will give that bowler $10,000, and Lincoln Mercury will give him a cougar. Hope it's not like a no-hitter it used to be in baseball. You're not supposed to mention such things, but it's news.
Why, they can't hear us. Oh! Inside that time.
I think he knew that just as soon as he released the ball.
Yes, he did. He felt like he missed his target. You see, the bowler keeps his eye on the target, on the spot. And right at this point, you see his eyes fixed on that spot. Now, right there, he goes inside that target, and the ball is breaking way too soon, about 5 feet too soon.
There goes the 6th inning. And that puts Glenn behind now by 2 pins as Jim Steffens steps up here in the 6th. The first game, he had 5 in a row. Let's see if he can make it 6 in a row here in the 2nd.
Who knocked that down? That was almost one of the greatest taps in the bowling game. Here's a near-perfect delivery. You see a good full extension out onto the lane. The ball is a beautiful revolution there. Now, you see the ball miss it as it goes to the right. Either the 5 or the ball is supposed to hit that 8. And it was just such a good revolution, it stayed long enough there to spin it forward.
Number 7 for Jim Steffens coming up. Is it? It is! And Jim Steffens now has 7 strikes in a row. We'll be back in just a moment. And here we go in the 2nd game of the Midas Open $100,000 PBA tournament, the first of the year on the Pro Bowlers Tour. Glenn Carlson in the 7th. He's trailing Jim Steffens by 22 pins.
Makes a little comeback and needs to get this one to get in the hunt. Glenn Carlson down long, and it's quite amazing with the mechanical difficulties that they've had to be switching lanes from 31 over now to 29 and 28 and doing equally as well, if not better. If he gets this one, there's going to be a real amount of concern in the house. And he looks pretty good with it.
5 in a row for Jim Steffens.
He is alive for the 10,000 and the new coupe.
Look at that. Everybody's concentrating on Jim Steffens, and Glenn just spared in the 6th. Aside from that, he's been striking all the way along as he's in the 9th frame.
He's still eligible, Bud, to win get an entrant in the Firestone field. You must win a championship in order to be eligible for Firestone. And I know he would love to win it.
Oh, a lot of great ones coming up. March 2nd is the STP Classic in Miami. $85,000 Lincoln Mercury Open in Denver, Colorado, March 16th. March 23rd, the $80,000 Miller High Life Open. March 30th, the $80,000 Ebonite Open. April 6th, $125,000 Firestone Tournament of Champions. What a lineup and what prize money.
This man needs some strikes.
Oh, that's outside.
Looked like he went away around his body, but see, there you see the ball going behind his back. Now when he comes forward, instead of going straight through toward his target, it goes way out to the right, you see, and can't make that sharp hook break back into the 1-3 pocket. And that was one that he needed. He could strike out for 278, which would have made the pressure on Steffens very, very great. Now Steffens does not even need to mark.
That is 243 for Glenn Carlson, but here it is.
And gonna lose. That's a rough day.
Jim Steffens, 9 strikes in a row. He strikes out a perfect game, $10,000, and a new Cougar, courtesy of Lincoln Mercury.
He needs 3.
We've only had 2 perfect games on national TV before. Jack Billondolillo in Houston, Texas, of Houston, Texas. That was in Akron in 1967 Tournament of Champions, and Johnny Gunther in San Jose in 1969. Maybe we're going to look at the 3rd.
This is 300 and a new Cougar automobile, all on a strike right here.
And the first show of the year. This is it for $10,000. Strike number 13.
Oh, he pulled it up.
Midas, and a tremendous crowd here gives him a huge ovation, which he deserves. Here it is again. Here's a
beautiful arm swing, full extended follow through. Now I thought he pulled that slightly. He was about a board inside of his target, but he didn't go around the side. The ball stayed straight and held right in the 1-3 pocket and tripped out that 4-7.
And you just witnessed just the 3rd game live on television. Jim Steffens is going down there, a perfect game. And we'll return with more in just a moment.
Play. What?
This is Bob Strampino in the 4th frame, leading by 45 pins over Jim Steffens. And that's 4 in a row for Bob Strampy. And this has been quite a tournament, hasn't it, William? How about some other finishers there?
Well, you're looking at the top 5, of course, today through Earl Anthony, Dick Ritker, Bob Strampy, Glenn Carlson, Jim Steffens, and Earl Anthony, who lost in the first match. There you're seeing him as it...
There's the old veteran Carmen Salvino won $1,800.
He's been bowling very steady. Tim Harahan. Wally Wagner. Gary Mage had a tough luck last night. He was in second place going into the final 8 games. There's last year's leading money winner, still going strong. Another one of the fine bowlers residing in L.A., Dale Glenn. Also, Bobby Fleegman. Mike Limongello from New York.
There's a great name. Dick Weber.
There's a young man that missed in the final game last night by 7 pins.
And Johnny Gunther, who is the ultimate today and the last man to get a perfect game live on television before this afternoon with Jim Steffens. And Jim, though he had that perfect game, is trailing this man here, Bob Strampy, by 45 pins. Bob is in frame number 6. He has 5 in a row. Watch him and the pins here. Oh, that breaks it.
The way Bob was lined up, I thought he might be perfect, but it's easy to come up with a tap like that. The solid 10.
Wouldn't it be great to give another $10,000 of ABC's money away in the new Cougar by Lincoln Mercury? We've done it once this afternoon. We still got the final game to go. And he had the same miss on the 10 as Jim Steffens. How many times do you see a fellow like Bob Strampy, of his caliber bowler, do that?
Not many, Bud, and that's one of the lanes that they were practicing on. Get just a one board off in line when you're going cross lane and going to the edge board like that, then you can drop off and miss it.
Now let's get a little closer to this game. And I hope you were here a little earlier when Jim Steffens bowled a perfect game, received $10,000 from ABC plus a new Cougar. And we're back once again at Mel's Bowl here in Alameda, California, American Recreation Center House. As you look at Jim Steffens, who needs that and a couple more to get back into this game. It looks like he was out. He was open in the 2nd and the 3rd frame, but then Bob Strampy also was open in the 6th. And now Jim here trails by 22.
This is really probably the biggest shot now of the tournament, since Jim finds himself in this position, down by 22. This one here will keep him alive to make the challenge against Strampy.
Coming up later today, except on the West Coast, ABC Sports tees off on the golf season with the 2nd round of the Bing Crosby National Pro-Am Golf Championship live from Pebble Beach, California. The time is 7 p.m. Eastern Time later today, except on the West Coast, over most of these ABC stations. And Bob Strampy now leading by 12. Oh, is this tightening up?
Got a nice break there, Bud, kicking out the remaining 2 pins. He left only the 2, kicked out the 4 and the 5. It's eliminating any possibility of chopping the spare. Just make contact, and he's got it. Plus, he was on a spare, so he picked up 2 pins and count, too.
And he led by as many as, what, 65 pins at one time, did Mr. Strampy.
Mm-hmm.
And now he only leads by 11. He would dearly love to win this because he hasn't won on the PBA Tour since 1968.
That was a big strike there, Bud, because that forces Jim to get more strikes. Where he'd have opened there, then Jim would have been right back, maybe even, or depending on the count, a pin or 2 ahead. Jim must continue to strike. looking at the bowler from the front, and there you see him from the back. Look at that beautiful finishing position at the line, the full extension of the arm, which takes the ball toward the target and ensures it going into the 1-3 pocket.
And assuredly, he sure needs this one.
Well, this is the one that would give him the lead, so he really needs this one now. Great comeback after 2 opens.
We've been switching lanes, and if you're watching those pins and heard the noise, you can't really blame our cameraman because we had some mechanical difficulties here, so we have been switching from lane to lane. Now Jim leads by 9.
Making Strampy's task more difficult, Jim Steffens can score 245 with a strike here. Bob Strampy would then need 3 strikes to win by 1 pin.
Amazing score considering he's open in the 2nd and the 3rd. But he's had strikes the rest of the way. For Jim Steffen.
Here's the final shot of Jim Steffens. Full extension again as he goes through that release area. The knee bent. You see the arm go through. Now Bob Strampy must strike. Bob Strampy must strike again, Bud. That puts him in the 230s. He now needs another one to get in the 240s. He's down by 8. If he gets a strike on this ball, then he would need 9 to win it by 1 pin.
Smile.
Like he was using a little wider pattern that time, but good mixing action on the ball caused those pins to come back off of the kick plate.
Now he needs 9 to win?
Needs 9 to win. 8 would be a tie. We'd had Southern Death playoff.
There's our winner, Bob Strampy, with a 246. Jim Steffens, 244 after Jim had that 300 game when he defeated Glenn Carlson, 300 to 243. And Jim Steffens getting everybody standing on their feet here, getting a tremendous round of applause. And this is Dick Ritker, who is sitting in the sidelines, getting ready for the final game. He's warming up. And we'll be back with the final match in just one moment.
The top.
And as it says, that serious young man there, who is 35 years old, is Dick Ritker, leading Bob Strampy in the 4th by 1. We're at Mel's Bowl in Alameda. It's American Recreation Center House. Bob Poigner, the president, is here today. That just didn't do anything, that ball.
But it was a little inside of his line. He was praying for it to hold back and trip the 4-7 out. You can see where it gets a possible trip right here. It hangs just enough in the pocket to get the pin, but it catches the edge of the lane and does not come back onto the lane surface. And therefore, the 4-7 remains standing. He was a little bit slow and probably about a board inside of his target line. But I think one of the most outstanding things happened just a moment ago. Dick Ritker picked up a piece of masking tape on his heel, and Strampy called it to his attention instead of letting him bowl thusly. And that's a great tribute to Strampy and sportsmanship.
But they're great sportsmen, like golfers. You know, they help each other out. If you're having a problem with your swing or something, or approaching the line, they go to each other, and they really help each other out. You see that all the time in these tournaments.
Ritker had 299 in the tournament. That's as near to 300 as you can possibly get.
And Bob Strampy now moves into the fifth. They're bowling for the top prize here in the Midas Open of $14,000, and Bob leads by 1 pin.
He's a little slow. Just a whisker.
And don't forget, it's all live this afternoon on ABC, except for the West Coast, or for most of these stations. As soon as we're finished here, we're looking at the pin that Mr. Strampy is going after. It'll be the Hula Bowl live via satellite. Also, except on the West Coast, it'll be followed by the second round of the Bing Crosby, where they've been having weather problems, where the final round will be on Monday. That's sort of even Steven all the way around to me. Here's Strampy in the sixth. And he leaves the 10. It's been quite an afternoon here. In the first game, Earl Anthony lost to Jim Steffens. And then in the second game, Jim Steffens rolled a perfect 300 game to pick up $10,000 in a new Cougar as he defeated Glenn Carlson 300 to 243. And then Bob Strampy defeated Jim Steffens, a very close game, 246 to 244. And here we have Richter and Strampy battling in the finals, with Richter now leading by 1.
A chance to take a commanding lead. In this game, we've seen a number of taps, more taps than we've had in the rest of the matches combined so far today, and it goes that way sometimes. Speed control.
That's that important when you're talking about. And he leads by 11. By the way, I'd like to express our thanks to the Pro Bowlers Association, its Executive Director, Joe Antonora, and the American Recreation Centers for their cooperation on today's telecast. So mention the prize monies furnished by the PBA and the Midas International Corporation.
$11-pin lead now. Double up. Strike here would put him 21 in the lead. Got a good close one, Bud.
Look at the concentration. He's almost the most machine-like, I think, of all the bowlers, isn't he, Richter?
Pretty much so. Very seldom changes expression. Always got the scowl.
Let's say not a scowl, a look of deep concentration. And Strampy now. In the seventh, he's trailing by 10.
Delicate position for Strampy, down by 10 with a spare up. If he doesn't strike, he loses pins in count. Still only 10.
Strampy, as I mentioned, one of the veterans. He's 42 years old, and how this tour has grown since Eddie Elias, the founder, started in 1959. There were 3 tournaments, $47,000. This season, it'll be in 90 cities. The tour will be $2.5 million in prize money.
Strampy going to even the match right here.
I'd say the crowd is sort of pulling for Bob.
Great look in slow motion here at Bob Strampy. There you see the weight of the ball coming by, a sliding foot. It goes through extension. Now there the ball gets the 5 and slides it in front of the 7. He was bringing that ball a long way. But that's where he's left the 4-pin, so maybe he's made the adjustment.
Now we have Dick in the 8th. He's leading by 10. By the way, he comes from Hartford, Wisconsin, where most of the mufflers are made for Midas, who's the sponsor here this afternoon. I didn't know whether those were all going to go or not.
Looked like the 8-10 might stand. It was awful slow in going down. Back to 10 pins difference. Ritker a 10-pin lead. Shooting in the 9th frame with a strike up can take a 20-pin lead with a strike here. That's a big ball, Bud.
That's like watching the train come in late, isn't it?
Who said if you're not patient? Strampy's work is cut out for him. He has a possible 227 if he could strike out, and he needs strikes in the 9th and 3 in the 10th to force Ritker to strike in the 10th. Strampy's still alive. So that sliding 7 in the middle there in between strikes really hurt him now. That cost him 20 pins. Here's the pressure, Bud. Bob Strampy needs 3 strikes for a 227. That would force Dick Ritker to strike on his first shot in the 10th. He's working on it.
Yeah, he sure is.
That forces Ritker to mark there. This strike and a good count on the final ball, preferably another strike. There you see the arm swing, the balance of the weight, the knee bend, the full extension of the arm for the follow-through for Bob Strampy. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. He was looking up and thinking the heavens. That wasn't a bad hit. They just fell funny, Bud.
Tito Steffens, our scorer, is even shaking. Look at this.
It's right on the nose. Almost had the 4-6. And the 2 pins come back to the lanes. But here's the good count that he needs. Has to have a good count.
That tightens it up. 227.
Not only tightens it out, it forces Ritker to strike. If Ritker doesn't strike here, Strampy is the winner. That's how important count can be sometimes. If he would have got 7 on that final ball, he'd have had 224. Ritker could have won with 9 a spare and 9. Now, Ritker must strike. Little man doing what he has to. Mayo call.
That does it, doesn't it, or not?
Well, he can't foul. We must allow for that. The players, once in a great while, slip and slide over the line. He cannot foul on this ball, or he would lose the benefit of what he made on that previous shot. No, there's the winner.
There he is. Now he's got it. For sure. And Dick Ritker, who won 3 tournaments last year, starts out here in the first one for the PBA, winning this one. Make his total to 14 tournaments, and you'll see him later this month on ABC's Superstar Show. 20 over Bob Strampy. Strampy really gave it a whirl there for a bit. Everybody congratulate the winner, Dick Ritker. That's his 14th win on the PBA Tour.
On behalf of all the employees of Midas International and the more than 600 Midas dealers throughout the United States and Canada, it is my pleasure to present to you this trophy. You are a great champion. In addition to that, I'd like to present to you a check for $14,000. You well deserved it. Thank you, Dick. I would also like to say that Dick is really a hometown boy because he comes from Hartford, Wisconsin, which is the home of our largest muffler manufacturing plant.
Thank you very much, Milt. Great having you on ABC. Where's Jim Steffens? Come on in here. And why don't you read what that says on there? I love to hear these dollar signs be written up.
It says 10 big ones, bud. $10,000.
By ABC.
Right.
How'd you feel in that last ball?
Oh, I was just kind of shaking. I got pretty lucky. I dropped the ball, and the ball held and carried a pretty high hit. So, you know, it's a tough decision. You know, I bowled so bad for a couple of years there, and then last year I started getting my game back in shape. And to start out the year like this, I just can't believe it.
Maybe it's all the new hair. I don't know. Maybe that made the difference. But congratulations, Jim Steffens. Perfect game. Dick Ricker, our winner of $14,000. I'm Bud Palmer, along with Billy Whaley, saying